There we go. Hello, Frugal Force. This is Captain Frugal reporting for duty, and today I have, of course, my co-host, the Nerd Wonder, and I have two wonderful, special, spectacular guests today. No. And you guys want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey guys, I'm Peter Simeti, founder and publisher of Alterna Comics. Hey everybody in the chat, everybody watching.
Hey everybody, Ben Henderson, founder and writer over here at Cautionary Comics. How's everybody doing?
I just thought I'd have them introduce themselves so I don't butcher it.
You never butcher anything. You're wonderful.
Oh, you've never watched my videos, have you?
I'm part of your videos.
I've never butchered anything. Have you heard me say a name correctly?
It doesn't matter.
Say Henderson.
Smooth through it.
Henderson.
There you go. You got it, pal.
Okay, I got one. I'd like to say thank you to everyone that's joining us so far and for everybody else that would hopefully pop in. So today we got a lot of things to talk about. First of all, our two guests here, Ben and Peter, you're both run comic book companies. Peter, you've been running this one, Alterna. You've had Alterna for over 13 years, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Wow. And then we have Cautionary Comics partial owner here, Ben Henderson. How old is Cautionary Comics now?
We've been here 1 year.
1 year. Hey, that's all right. We got the beginning and when it's been around.
Yeah, we love St. Pete. He got us definitely advocating for the newsprint feel. I also love the smell. I love the experience of it. And, just how to deal with customers too, just really the base thing. Pete, I love what you said. Just say, hey, whether you like it or not, thanks for reading.
Yeah, that's the key to everything. Just be grateful that someone even looked at your book, let alone bought it. Yep. And you'll be fine from that point on.
Yeah. I've been finding that's been good. That's served me well over the past year, Pete.
Glad to hear it.
Look at that. You're setting the benchmark for others. How does that make you feel?
That makes me feel great. I'm glad that I'm the example of treating customers well.
Absolutely. Now, hey nerd, can I trouble you again to be our screenshot person?
Absolutely no problem. I put back on Google Chrome, so we should be.
All right. Could you pull up the Alterna Indiegogo?
Can you link it to me, or did you already link it to me?
I haven't linked it to you, but it'll pop up right in the Google search. Real easy.
All right. Hang on.
All right. While she's doing that, Glade Runner said we should be good as long as I don't play Dead or Alive on hard again. So
Buy it.
I did a live stream playing Dead or Alive on hard night, and it took me a while to beat some people. We'll say that. I didn't have a strong showing.
I wouldn't either, so don't worry about it.
That's all right. I didn't take it hard. Unfortunately my internet went out before I beat it. So
see, I'll be honest, I'm so in my own thing. I thought you meant like the Bon Jovi song. You were playing it. Dead or Alive?
No, I'm rusty as heck.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, we got to play one day, though.
I have to get the fingers going. It's been a long time.
Oh, muscle memory. You'll have it.
I appreciate your positivity there.
I don't know why, but now it just reminded me of Star Wars. That song.
The Bon Jovi song?
No, the best song.
Oh, okay. All right, she's got it. So I'm going to pull it up on your screen, okay? So you're presenting it. Yeah. All right. So Peter's got a big deal going on here, an Indiegogo for Alterna Comics, and who better to explain it than you?
Yeah, we've got an Indiegogo up and running right now. We've got about a week or so left. It says Alterna Comics is expanding. We're getting a bigger storage space. This way we can have more room to fill bigger print runs because we're running out of stock on a lot of books, and this is going to allow us to do some big stuff, keep things in stock, allow us to order more shipping supplies, and also allow us eventually, depending on the size here, if we get the $8,000 stretch goal, which we're sort of close to, actually. Wow, 4,830. I didn't know that we had gotten a little bit more there. We have a $5,000 stretch goal coming up, but the $8,000 stretch goal is going to allow us to get a 10 by 20 space.
And that's going to. We have to push for this, guys, because size matters.
Yeah, absolutely, it does, especially in this case.
I mean,
and
you're using your house.
Well, right now we're in a storage. We've got a storage unit right now,
Okay, good.
but it's 5x10. And also, I've got a lot of books in the house just because you can't just have everything in a storage unit. You got to have access to stuff.
Yeah.
But the 10x20 is going to be 4 times the size of what we have right now. And that's going to enable us to take the first steps into doing Alterna distribution in a couple of years. In a year or two, actually, depending on how things go with us and with the industry. So it's a lot of stuff going on, and there's some great perks up here. You can get a pretty big discount if you guys backed Alternaween. If you heard about Alternaween, you felt, I missed out, you can get started on that kind of early. We're going to have Alternaween 2 eventually go up in July on Indiegogo. It's going to start it earlier this year, so there's not so much craziness. I packed I think 16,000 comics in 2 weeks.
Wow,
Um,
I'm psyched. I love
that's a lot.
But I
Now, how many people did you have doing that with you?
It was only really me and my wife.
Woo!
Yeah, and I'd say
You've got a
maybe
supportive wife.
yeah, I'd say 80% of the time it was mostly me because I didn't want her to do too much. She has so much stuff going on as well. So it was mostly me doing a lot of it, and man, oh man, that was grueling.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to try not to do that and do that to myself, especially this time around. So we're going to get started with that later on in July. But you guys can get a head start on it right now and get a really good discount on the books. And you can also, we're timing this out for Free Comic Book Day, so it's kind of the spirit of Free Comic Book Day. You're going to get a big discount. So this way, hopefully you can donate some books to a library, a children's hospital, maybe the troops, stuff like that. We donate all the time with comics. So if you guys are in the donating spirit, you can help out us, and you can also spread the good word of comics to everybody out there.
I like this idea.
That's cool, man.
Jam them into those neighborhood library booklets. Just
Yeah.
put a few in.
Well, I have another 100 coming, and we're going to be giving away all the doubles that we get, compared to what we already have since they're random. And so that should go good. Little Frugal's going to bring some to his school and give them away.
Awesome.
I always give some away at work. So when I find people that are maybe like families that don't have a lot of money and things like that, their kids aren't going to get much. So I make sure I give them stuff like that. So,
Cool.
it's a win-win. We share our passion for comic books, and we get to help others. And for the price point, I mean, you can't beat it,
No.
Yeah, especially with comics now, they're getting so expensive. Even the comics that are aimed directly at kids, like our all ages comics are not made for kids. They're just appropriate for kids.
Right.
But even the comics that are made specifically for kids are so expensive. They're all more expensive than the Alterna books. So just the fact that a donation equals free for those kids, and then the parents see the price point and go, oh, well, that's not too bad if I want to continue this hobby for my child, at least for Alterna.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important to get this next generation of readers into comics, and not only for the fact that they're readers then, but that they'll be creators one day too. If we don't have kids reading comics and loving comics and getting into actually the comic books themselves, we're going to run out of creators one day that want to make these things. So it's important that kids get that love of comics nice and young, and that they understand, hey, this is an awesome way to tell stories, and this is something I love and want to do one day.
So you mentioned distribution. Did you care to share any about this distribution upgrade that you're planning, or is that something you want to keep on the
Yeah,
download?
it's something relatively similar. For those that don't know, I mean, basically, we sell direct to readers and to retailers too. We also do traditional distribution. We're in Diamond and everything like that, and also we have newsstand distribution too. But this is going to be something just basically continuing what we already do with our selling to readers and retailers, but extending that as well into getting other indie comics on board and having a separate full site set up. And nothing that's going to be too complicated either for retailers, because that's something that I've learned from them, is that they just want to kind of go in there, see what's available, punch out with a discount, and put in their address and get books. And one of the biggest factors we're going to get going is we're going to have a ship to store feature. So that's what's going to separate things. If you want to get things shipped to your local comic shop, we're going to have free shipping on that. Whereas if you order direct from us, you would then pay for shipping. So that's the incentive there. That's the big difference for someone who would want to do that. And this is all eventually going to happen. But it's nothing that's going to be like Diamond. We're not going to model it after Diamond. It's not going to be a pre-orders scenario. It's going to be books that are already done, reorders, things like that, stuff that is basically kind of a bit of a hole right now at Diamond, and something too where if you've got a crowdfunded book, you can have us distribute it for you, and it's not going to be, at least I don't think so. I don't want to promise, thousands of sales or anything like that, but it's a good avenue, and hopefully by that time we got other people doing stuff too, and I think that's where the market's headed. I think, I think Ben is doing something like that too, something similar that they want to get out there too, and it's important to have these multiple venues, these multiple avenues for everybody to sell. It just it creates a healthy marketplace, and that's something that the comic industry is sorely missing right now.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I want to sell thousands of books.
And that's completely possible. It just depends. Are those creators motivated enough, or are they going to spread the word too? Which hopefully they will. But they need that incentive to go, okay, well, I have a book. I want to sell a lot of them, but I don't have a place necessarily to list that book, to make it a part of something, to be distributed to stores. And this is going to enable that. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully other people as well start to go in that direction.
A campaign I think you should do, Peter, and I can't do it with mine because mine are all mature readers, like 18 plus. But, a big campaign that I think you could do is, for schools and for children and for parents, get on those parent groups, because the big push, at least for us, and I know a lot of parents, is disconnecting your kids from the internet. Well, they flip out. What are you going to do for that hour, right? How are they going to spend that hour? They aren't even sure how to spend that time, right? They don't. So, putting a stack of your comics saying, hey, spend an hour and read these. I think parents are looking for that kind of solution, and I think you'd do well with that.
Yeah, that's a definite possibility.
Yeah.
So what about you, Ben? Do you have different kind of plans for distribution, getting your comics in stores and things like that? Or
I'm just following Peter. I bought a hat that looks just like his. I'm going to buy the sweatshirt now. And that's about it, man. I'm doing Diamond, for distribution. I have some comic book shops that have come into, connected to us through the Indiegogo. Now we're doing stuff a little bit differently. I spent last year doing a couple different things. I set up a network for printing, and Pete, tell me what you think of this. But so I dove into, newsprint and how it works, and the process of the press, and then how they update it. So what we went with was the high bright newsprint with UV drying. This big machine that sits on the rollers and shoots UV light down into the paper. Then with this special kind of paper, ink, and UV light, it sets the ink into the pulp, not on top of the pulp. So you don't get any of that smudging and rub up and stuff. So, I wanted to make sure that, number one, I had all the printers in my network that were consistent. Then I went, overseas. So I have printers internationally that have that technology. So that was the next step. Then the third step was I needed to focus in region where I had people. I've worked internationally for 20 years. So, that's part of the big problem, right? You need to have people you trust in region if you're going to have a warehouse full of books that can be taken. So I have that in place. I feel comfortable with that. So I can now print in region, and it'll cost much, much less to get into the European market. And when I print in Jakarta, Indonesia, it's less to print into the Asian market. So it cost me a lot less. So I focused on that. Then the second thing we're doing is indiefocus.com, just a web platform called indiefocus.com. It's not going to be just comic books. It's going to be film, records. It's going to offer services like production, sampling, storage of comic books or CDs or apparel, right? We're going to have a big fashion section for it. So, that's kind of what we're looking at from the platform perspective. And then from the comic perspective, we're going to tie that into Indie Focused so that, so that basically you can just upload your file and print it, however many you need. but you'd get the economies of scale for leveraging, all of our network, because we're hopefully going to be doing it with several different creators, not just us.
Awesome. It sounds like you put a lot of work into this, and a lot of networking. So it's awesome.
Well, the platform is even the best. That's what the network wasn't so as hard to do as the platform development. What really gave me the inspiration was last year was I was on Patreon with Mitch Brightweiser, and I got his top tier thing. You know what I mean? Where I get some original art, and I love that. Well, for like 2 months, they were jerking around and didn't give him his, or at least a month, didn't process the money, and we didn't know why. So I'm like, I'm tired. So, I ended up starting this project with my team and stuff. And long story short, it's ended up to where Indie Focused is. We're going to collaborate with Pixel and the team that was developing Indiecron. So, and then we kind of merged efforts, and that's where Indie Focus came from.
That's awesome. And I want to make a point too. And Peter, you've got this as one of your stretch goals too, is you guys are creating work and creating opportunities for income for others with all this you're doing. And one of your stretch goals, if you meet the 8,000 stretch goal, correct me if I'm wrong, is it's going to allow you to hire some part-time help for one, so you and your wife can actually have some more free time for once, it sounds like. But, it's going to, hopefully the business will be booming that much. You're going to actually be getting additional help, and some people are going to get some part-time jobs in working in comics. How cool is that?
Yeah. It's something that's going to allow us to have that proper setup of space, so we can actually get things organized in a way where people could go in there and help us out. Right now, obviously, you can see the picture right there on the What the Truck video. There's no room in there for someone to get in there and do anything efficiently. It's just me, and it's pretty much just stacking boxes. But if we get that 10 by 20 space, it's definitely going to enable us to have that room for someone to move around, and especially when we do big campaigns like Alternaween and things like that. It's definitely going to be able to get someone in there, 1 or 2 people easily, especially with the table set up, and it's going to cut the whole processing time and everything that has to do with shipping. It's going to cut that down so quickly. But that's the important part too, is that we have to make sure, at least I have to make sure, that people are doing things the right way, because I'm very particular about how things get packed. I want to make sure that the quality, the standard is still there. And I want to make sure that these people are aware and fully trained and just it's second nature by the point that we do alternative distribution with any kind of fulfillment, because it's not good for anyone if you get people in there that just go, I don't really care how these things get packed and shipped. If we wanted things that way, we would just, keep on having Diamond do everything. So we want to make sure people are getting things in good shape, and that they're aware of what needs to be done and how a box needs to be packed and just stuff like that. It sounds kind of odd to say, but there's a lot of cases of, I receive shipments still sometimes from people where I'm like, man, this is going to go through some pretty rough treatment. You have to make sure you pack this thing at least somewhat, keeping that in mind. And sometimes, when I've backed Kickstarters or crowdfunders, I've been shocked sometimes to see the way the things are shipped. They'll just put a graphic novel in an envelope, like literally a manila envelope, and call it a day. And
that sounds wonderful.
And yeah, and you can imagine it's not really in the best shape when it arrives. And it's bad enough when you go the extra mile and it still gets destroyed, because the post office is a little bit unkind sometimes to packages. But when you do that, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So you have to train people, and you have to supervise them. And it's not just literally, okay, someone's doing all this packing and shipping, and then I'm just over, on vacation or something. I don't think I'm going to have a vacation pretty much for years to come. But it allows me to do other things within the company. It allows me to also help them with the shipments, to cut that shipping time down a long bit. So it buys me more time to do other things and to help the company continue to grow. So all this stuff is just about growth and continuing to grow in a good, normal kind of way. Whereas right now we're experiencing growth in a very, very quick way, which can be disastrous. So we have to do it. You have to do things the right way and make sure we're taking the proper steps.
I really like that you mentioned packing and shipping, because back when I used to sell comics and things too, shipping was always an issue. I mean, we'd get them in and they were no matter how much you think they would pack them good, sometimes they really didn't. A third of your product is destroyed. And you even mentioned that on your Indiegogo that you couldn't get deliveries all the time due to weather because of your situation. So
because we have no indoor loading dock at the place that I'm currently at, and we just got our last delivery yesterday. Boy, it feels days ago. It feels like days ago, but it's not. So there was a case where I uploaded a video to the Indiegogo and to YouTube showing that we got a shipment and it was snowing. It was snow outside and they didn't plow. So literally the pallet and the comics are sitting there pretty much in the snow. And luckily the pallet was just high enough off the ground that we didn't have to worry about any kind of water damage or anything like that. But stuff like that really, it just irritated me to see, there's the plow sitting across in the parking lot. And literally as I was driving out, the guy gets in his plow and he's going to start plowing. I was like, just my luck, right? So I'm glad to be getting out of there. I'm looking forward to getting into the new spot. Our next shipment that we get from the printer is going to be going to the new place, an indoor loading dock, all that good stuff. So yeah, so
you get warehouse space. Is that what you're going for? That's what we did.
It's still a storage unit, but it's built more like a warehouse, more of that kind of mindset. Climate controlled, big indoor units. I think it's like 2 or 3 loading docks that are indoor, and just it's going to be a whole lot easier than what it is right now.
Hey, Captain, can I ask Pete another question?
Ask away. That's what you're here for, man. Have fun.
Hey, when you send your comics to local comic book stores, do you put them in bags and boards first?
No, I don't. Actually, I have this isn't going to a local comic shop, but this is similar to what we do. Usually it'll be something like this. It's in pretty wrap, plastic wrap here.
Do you do that, or you have your printers?
I do that. I do this all personally. But so that's what we do. If it's like 1 or 2 copies, I put it in a bag and board, and then I put 2 pieces of really sturdy cardboard, and then I put it in a stay flat mailer, or depending on the size, it'll go in like an easy fold mailer like this. It's similar to a Gemini mailer, but a little cheaper.
Oh, okay. I'll check those out. I went Gemini, and then this is our first one. You're 13 years in. We're babies here, but this is our first fulfillment. So I have a team. We put, as soon as they came off the newsprint press, I had my team put them in bags and boards. And then I went through the newsprint. Then I went through the bags and boards because there was still damage. You know what I mean? Just coming off the press and how it got wrapped after it comes off the press.
Yeah.
Dang. So I'd say 1 or 2% of my product was damaged, and it is what it is. They'll give me a discount, I guess, on the next one. Then I had it put in bags and boards. Then I had a stack of thousands of bags and boards. Then I had, I bought 5,000 Gemini mailers. Then I had my fulfillment team. I hired a fulfillment team to come in and help me for this month. And then they're doing the folding of the Gemini mailers, putting in the comics, putting the tape on it, and off we go. So that's the thing. But which was the Gemini mails? They're good, but you're right, they're expensive. The Gemini mailers.
Yeah, you really got to order a lot of them. Like that's another thing too. With the bigger storage space, we're allowed to get these big palletized shipments, and probably not have to order shipping supplies for a year or 2, as opposed to doing it every 2 or 3 months.
Mm-hmm. You're right. That's a lot cheaper, in a way to do it. I wish I would have went for like 10 to 20,000 on my print run, but I don't think I could sell all that. I went with 5,000 on my print run for retail and for exclusive covers.
Yeah. Because that's the thing too. A lot of people, they might not realize the economy of scale there. It's as soon as you get, usually for most printers, as soon as you get past like 2,000 or 3,000, every 1,000, it starts really taking off almost, 50 cents to $1
Right.
on the thing. And then especially if it's single issues, it really starts shaving off, 20 cents and 15 cents and 10 cents. And it keeps going down and down. And you got to make sure you got that bigger print run initially, because that's something too that I wasn't really pleased about. I love the fact that we're selling out of books and we got to go back to print.
Yeah.
But I can't justify doing like another 3,000 or 4,000 on a second printing. I can justify maybe doing 500 or 1,000.
Right.
So even though we can partner up and gang up all our print runs together, it's still going to, equate to a 40 cents, 45 cents a piece issue on a second printing, as opposed to doing it the first time and getting it for, 20, 25 cents or something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, it's just going to enable us to do that. So I'm really psyched about that and having the more books in the beginning.
A funny question was asked by Glade Runner 2113. Said, "Is Peter wearing Alterna branded headphones? He's seen the Alterna on the headphones."
Oh yeah. Well, I had 2 stickers left over of Alterna stickers, and I just cut them out. That's all. Yeah.
That's so
Probably from afar, it looks like they're.
It works.
Yeah, you should totally sell those one day.
Yeah.
And Nerd Wonder Alern said he had fun looking for all the Easter eggs in your ash can.
Aw, thank you. I try my best to put in as many as possible.
Awesome. A question though from James Hayes to you, Ben. He said, "Do you have anything from art or info to share on the Florida Man comic book?"
Oh my goodness, you brought up my favorite subject right now. So right now the art is up. We're doing a video for it. So I'll tell you what we're doing. We're doing it, and I say we, Edwin and the team are doing a great video for Florida Man. We were going to release the Offworlder and the Wraith, these 2 books that from my Cautionverse, but we decided we're going to release one of our cautionary tales, kind of outside the Cautionverse first, because it's funny, because it's so good. It's Mike Barron, top of his game. For me, it's the hero we need. Now, I think it's based on me. Now, I don't legally, Mike Barron can't admit it, for rights and all that stuff.
I know. Dude.
We know what's going on. Yeah. So we're doing Florida Man next. It's going to be a lot of fun. Keep an eye out for the video. The cover's out right now, though. And it's just going to be a blast. We're starting as soon as Ravage fulfills. I'm thinking just in a couple of weeks. We're almost done, with all of that. And then Florida Man will be next. And then on our production schedule, that'll be 30 days. So I think that'll take us to the end of May. Then we're going to do the Offworlder, the protector of Sa-Ra. He was sacrificed to the gods for his people. Now he has to fight an intergalactic war to save them. Then we're going to do Ravage number 2 coming out in June. Then we have a secret project for the 4th of July. Then we have the Morgar, the Magus, and another horror comic called Off Kilter for October.
Man, I'm surprised you could keep all that straight and remember all that. Holy cow.
Me too, since I've been drinking since 5.
Oh, gee.
Happy hour. So,
So, Peter, do you have any special books or anything really cool coming out soon, too, from Alterna?
Yeah, we actually have, and I kind of showed this for a little bit. For those that are reading Blood Realm, we've got the next installment. So we've got a bunch of issues coming out. It's supposed to come out for next Wednesday, but we shall see, because Diamond has been sort of odd with release dates.
Now, I'll admit I didn't care for Blood Realm a lot, but somebody told me I got to give issue 2 a chance, and then it'll start filling in better for me. So I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, Blood Realm is not a traditional comic. It's still a comic, but it's not something most people might be used to. And for a lot of people, that's been great. And for some people, it's been a bit jarring. Yeah. But that's perfectly fine. I know that you didn't necessarily do any backflips for the title, and that's okay, man. It's fine.
Once again, that's that professionalism right there.
You liked the chair, so that's kind of all that matters.
I love the chair.
With art by Peter, and I love them. They're my treasured collection now, Peter. So thank you.
I absolutely love the chair, and I reviewed issue 1. I got 2 I got to put up, and I did 3 and 4 together because I read them all at once. And I will admit, it made it really hard to review. because
it's very difficult. Yep.
Yeah, and so what I did is I thought about it. What was my feelings and how did I feel after reading each issue? So I did issue 1 and issue 2 like that, and then I just sort of grouped 3 and 4 together without giving away anything. That I haven't put those videos up yet, but I just loved it. It was good all the way through. That was some wicked stuff.
Thank you.
Was great, man. It really was.
Thank you. You know, it's funny releasing this first as a graphic novel. People read it, and this was out 10 years ago. For people that don't know, The Chair. This is actually, I only got a couple of these left, but this is the first edition, first printing, and this first came out in 2008. And when people read it, you know, it's a graphic novel, so they read the whole story, and then they told me what they thought about it, and it usually was positive. And they'd say, "Oh, I really, really liked it, and then this and that, and you know, I enjoyed." And releasing it again as single issues, especially bi-monthly, it was a lot of fun to see people go, "Oh, is this happening? Is that going to happen? I wonder, you know, what about this and what about that?" And they were theorizing and bringing their own kind of imagination and their own sense of storytelling involved in the story. And that was something I didn't experience the first time around. So it was really cool to see that, the anticipation factor for people.
I really liked the layouts, the darkness, just the way everything was done. It just constant. Everything was doom and gloom all the way through. I was quite impressed.
Thank you. Yeah. And for those that don't know as well, it's also a film. It's also been adapted to a film. It's
That's so
Roddy.
cool, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. Roddy Piper's in it. It's his last feature film before
So
he passed
cool,
away.
man. I love that.
And, yeah, if you guys have seen Gremlins, Zach Galligan, he plays Billy Peltzer in Gremlins. He's in that as well. Neverending Story, Noah Hathaway, he played Atreyu. He's in it too.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't pick out Atreyu.
Yeah.
I watched it. Okay, I'll go back. I got to watch it again.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, you go see it. It's on Amazon Prime. It's on a couple other places as well. You could also purchase the DVD Blu-ray combo on there
Brother.
too.
That must have felt great. You know what I mean?
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was great to get to talk to a lot of the actors behind stuff, especially Roddy, because Roddy was a childhood hero of mine. On a sad note, though, for those that may know who Joe Pilato is, he passed away. And he was in Day of the Dead. He was Captain Rhodes, and he was also in The Chair. He had a security guard cameo, and he was a really nice guy. He was just on set for like a day, but everybody really loved him. And I just want to give my thoughts and prayers out to Joe and you know, his family and his loved ones that are missing him right now. He's a good guy and very, very memorable, very, very memorable for that role in Day of the Dead. Horror fans especially, I think, will really feel the hurt of that passing. But yeah, he was a really great guy, and Roddy was awesome. Roddy was fantastic. There's someone in the chat I see saying Roddy was the nicest person he ever met in his whole life.
I never met him. I wanted to.
Nicest person. Yeah, he was terrific. Yeah, terrific.
That's awesome. I met Mr. T. He was awesome.
That's great. Yeah, Mr. T is great.
Yeah. Did you ever meet him?
No, I never met him, but I've seen people's videos of when they did meet him.
Yeah, it was a big.
I'd love to meet him one day. I would love to.
Yeah, it was memorable.
Just for the record, Lady Hawk said that she personally really likes Blood Realm. A lot of story mythology packed into a few issues.
I love it.
Good stuff. I'm going to give it a second chance. I'm going to read that second issue.
Yeah, read issue 2. Definitely read issue 2, because issue 1 is a lot of setup, and issue 2 starts diving right in. And by the time you get to 3, you're going to have to continue. So
awesome.
I mean, I only do indies now. I do tons of Alterna. My kids love Alterna. I love those family packs. You know, it's turned around. I have 6 kids, you know, so I can give those out to various ages, and they love them much better than the big mainstream stuff. You know, it's not grabbing them, right? It's just not the big 2. So thank you, Pete.
You know, you mentioned all those kids, Ben. A question Dominic Powell asked for you.
How did they happen? I can't explain that on this stream.
I know. I think I know how it happens. I got a couple myself.
Okay.
As far as I know. No, Dominic Powell asked, though, for you, will there be any all ages and younger titles from Cautionary Comics in the future?
Gosh, great question. So originally, I did want that, okay? And I've written 3, right? I wrote one called The Pirate and the Witch, a tale of 2 magical houses for children going through divorce. you know, and it was this 5-issue kind of saga about, you know, the mommy, this lady pirate and this dad witch, you know, the warlock, you know, but he's not evil, you know, and it goes through this whole kind of thing. And but then my wife, she's not too far, she said, honey, out of the 50 plus, you know, you only got 3 that are for kids. You know, the rest are inappropriate. So I was like, you know, you're right. So we went cautionary, at least for my caution verse, which is different than cautionary tales, which are other like Earthbound and Florida Man. For my stuff, it's all mature readers. Mm-hmm. Really for gore and violence more than sexual stuff, because everybody's like, Ravage, wow, is that like a porn comic? No. You know, it's by me and Chuck Dixon. And it's an action adventure comic. Think, you know, Lethal Weapon meets Grindhouse Amazons. You know, I mean, and that's Ravage, Kill All Men. But it's more violence, you know. But I like, part of why I did this for to make a point to the comic book industry. You know, if you're going to have mature content in it, I wanted a big title on the top, mature readers, so parents, you know, not a little M in the barcode,
like a video.
You know? But something I can look at on top and say, okay, this is for me, not for my 9-year-old or 6-year-old, you know? That's what I love about Alterna, when they say, hey, this is family friendly, very easy to look at. Click the button and it is family friendly. You know?
Yeah, I love that. It makes it easy to search on their website. And Peter, I'm going to push you a little bit more because you were also asked to, any new titles coming out this year from Alterna that you want to spotlight or anything in particular?
Yeah, we've got Mighty Mascots is coming out in late April, perhaps early May, again, depending on when they want to release it. We're kind of at their mercy sometimes with that. But that's a fun superhero book. It's just old school kind of superheroes, just completely fun. There's no existential crisis taking place. It's basically about a 3D printing accident that occurs and brings these old school mascots to life. And they're all kind of parodies of famous mascots too. And they just become a superhero team and they start saving the world and fighting the bad guys. It's just very, very fun and lighthearted. We've also got Gods and Gears eventually coming out as well. And that's going to come out in the fall.
What's that one called?
Gods and Gears.
Wow, it's cool. Good
yeah,
title.
yeah. It's a pretty epic adventure story. It's just, that one's a lot of fun too. It's basically got this feel of... man, it's so difficult to explain, but someone compared it really well to Jack Kirby's Eternals.
Wow.
Mixed with like a bit of, mixed with like a bit of Speed Racer.
Oh, wow.
And that one's really
Now you got me. You got me.
Ryan Wynn and Dean Kotz are doing that. And really great book. A lot of fun. There's basically like that feel of like the New Gods, kind of like that, mixed with kind of a down-to-earth like jungle story, coming of age story. There's a lot of different elements involved, some time travel, some kind of it's so hard to give away without giving away the whole story, but there's a lot of action in it, a lot of adventure elements, a lot of it's kind of an all ages title too, whereas it's friendly for kids, but adults are going to love it. And I think that's going to be a title that's going to be a really big hit for us. You guys can check it out right now on Ryan Wynn's Twitter page. He usually promotes it. He's gearing up for something big. He's Gods and gearing up for something big. And the Mighty Mascots as well. I want to not leave those creators out. Keith Gleason is the creator writer and Ian Warianto is the artist. So we've got a lot of good stuff coming out. And for those that are fans of Mr. Crypt, I know Frugal you are.
Oh, yeah.
But we've got more Mr. Crypt coming out. Adventures of Mr. Crypt and Baron Rat coming out in the fall as well. Starting with one issue that's going to be out in the summer, and then it's going to continue into the fall and the rest of the year. But people really loved the first Mr. Crypt series. They loved the Baron Rat book as well. And we're going forward with some more because people they love old Crypty. And
I'm taking Little Frugal to the comic shop Saturday. And he's going to ask for Baron Rat, issue 2 of Psycho KO.
Yeah,
awesome.
I love Psycho KO.
Psycho KO is phenomenal. I love it.
It is. It's great.
Yeah, we got more Psycho KO on the way as well. That's the thing, too, about a lot of the creators at Alterna. It's been great with so many of them, because they've been so appreciative of the readers too, that you guys get them fired up. So these guys, they're ready and raring to go on the next thing as long as I give the okay. And I'm always going to give the okay if a creator is excited to get a book out there, regardless of even, the sales could be bad. And not like the sales are necessarily bad, but the sales could be bad. But if a creator really is excited to get their stuff out there, if the readers are enjoying it, I want to make sure the book gets out there and give it a little bit of time for it to grow, because I find that there's too many publishers out there. They get a little bit scared right away. As soon as the sales dip just a little bit, they go, well, we got to cancel the title. And then you just completely pull the rug out from underneath the readers and the creators. Whereas maybe, stick it out a little bit and then it'll find its way and promote it. And that's what we do here at Alterna, and it's been working out.
Since you spoke about the creators and things, Justin Kelly, aka PokeMac, asks both the Alterna Comics and so Peter and Ben, this is to both of you. How does your creators' intellectual property work, if you don't mind?
I take all of it, and if they don't give it up, I come to their house. That's how that works.
Right.
No, actually, I just keep my own, honestly, and everybody else keeps their own. But I only really care about my stuff. But we want to help everybody get their own stuff off, but we don't take a percent.
Nice.
Yeah, at Alterna, it's an 80-20 split, so the creator gets 80% of everything, and then they keep 100% of the intellectual property rights. So if there's a sticker made or a movie made, they keep all of it.
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. For movies and all that kind of stuff, we take a percent for distribution for comics, but yeah, for movies and stuff, we don't take everybody's IP.
Yeah, like for instance, Trespasser got optioned by one of the co-writers of the Wonder Woman movie.
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, so that got optioned for a film. So if that film goes on and they make a ton of money off of it or whatever, Justin M. Ryan, who's the creator writer of Trespasser, he gets to get whatever that is, whatever his deal is with the movie company. And I'll just go ahead and print some more Trespasser books. So it's nothing that, I'm expecting to get a cut of the film or whatever kind of ancillary properties that get sold because of it. I want to make sure the creators understand that. And it gives them the ability to control their vision more with merchandising. And that's been great, especially in cases too. We mentioned Psycho KO. Rob Feldman wants to get an animated series going for Psycho KO. He wants to get toys going and all that kind of stuff. And this gives him that ability to monitor and control his IP the way he wants to.
It was funny that you said that, because when I read Psycho KO and Little Frugal and I did, I thought he didn't, because he's from a different generation. I thought this is a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really felt like went all the way through. And he probably wouldn't know what a Saturday morning cartoon is, because, well, nowadays it isn't that way,
No more Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah. Now you read that too, right, nerd?
Yeah, our era, we had the Bruce Timm era was ours.
Oh, nice.
As
Was
a
that
kid,
a bad era?
yeah,
No.
I got Static Shock in the Justice League, and Pokemon, but so yeah, I was very spoiled. I was very spoiled growing up. We also had Earthworm Jim, but so yeah, kids don't get that nowadays, and it is very Hanna-Barbera.
Mm-hmm.
Which I do recall when you watch Boomerang reruns and stuff, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the funnest little comic ever. I love it.
Yeah, it'd make a great fit, even as like an Adult Swim cartoon, if they just pushed it just a little bit with some innuendo humor. But that's up to Rob.
I'd rather not, though.
Well, I could see that. I could see it both ways. Yeah.
Originally, that was his intent, and I had to rein him in a little bit. And I said, look, kids are really going to love this. This looks like a really great family-friendly title. You don't have enough of that kind of humor in here to kind of justify getting a little raunchy from time to time. So I said, let's just make it a little clean. Let's just keep the jokes kind of ridiculous, kind of crazy.
The first issue with the girl at the shop wanting Psycho KO, that little love triangle, and at the end, that was a nice little more of a
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that when I was a kid, I mean, they made cartoons out of everything. So there was like a RoboCop cartoon, there was a Rambo cartoon,
Mr. T cartoon,
Mr. T cartoon,
Yeah, it's almost a Spawn cartoon.
Yeah, Well, I mean, there was a Spawn cartoon, but it was for HBO and it was definitely for adults.
Yeah, that's the one he wanted though, because he kept being offered Saturday morning cartoons, and he goes, "Do you know what this is?"
Yeah, yeah. So
I think it's
there was
probably
always
hard to pull
adult type of content. Not adult in terms of we're all thinking sexual or graphic or violent.
You're thinking in the grounds of Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah, yeah.
They would probably
Right.
really love to do that, actually. Just make it like really old school like that. Just make it the knockoff version or something like that.
I'd love that. I love Venture Brothers. That kind of old style.
Team Venture.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone's a fan of Venture Brothers or The Tick, definitely check out Psycho KO. And heck, even speaking
sure.
of The Tick, we've got the actual Roger, which is written, illustrated, and created by the director of the animated series of The Tick,
Wow.
Hank Tucker.
I
So check that out too.
Comic?
The actual Roger.
The actual
Yeah,
Roger.
the Indiegogo. You got him. You got all the issues on the Indiegogo. From what I saw.
Yeah. There's a bunch of the issues up there. It's basically the tales of an unwanted sidekick. And this kid, all of a sudden, one day, he gets bombarded with cosmic rays and is given the ability to fly 2 feet off the ground and no higher than that. He's kind of a weird little, sidekick, but he's all freaking out. He's happy he could just kind of hover. And all of a sudden, the government takes him and puts him in this superhero sidekick placement program and gives him to this pretty much an arrogant jerk of a superhero, really full of himself, doesn't think he needs a sidekick, doesn't want a sidekick. So this kid is more or less unappreciated, but it's a good, funny tale because of it. It causes a lot of drama.
Little Frugal and I have been reading that. He loves it. So
yeah, and it's very different from the Comixology release. The Comixology release was a bit unedited, a bit raw. It was black and white. There's new lettering. It's remastered. There's color on it. It's been edited and revised, and it's a lot sharper of a comic in the print version. So if anyone, again, is a fan of that kind of tick humor, that kind of self-aware, very over the top, yeah, go for that book. Check out the actual Roger. I think you guys are going to really dig it.
It's right.
How's
here.
Comixology been for you?
Comixology's been okay. Digital sales are very overrated, I find. People make a really big deal about digital, but for us, it's about 10% of our overall sales, and that's kind of what it is for the industry too. Even for Marvel and DC, it's not something that's going to overtake print anytime soon, if ever.
I'm going to absolutely do Comixology. I've actually, if you go to, I worked for a company a long time ago that did virtual reality stuff. My main career was coding. I'm kind of semi-retired now, and I do a lot of fun stuff, right? But basically, what I was working on for digital was augmented reality comic books. So imagine you had a headset with like your headset now, and you have glasses where you could hear something, ambient sound effects, or you could see the Kirby crackle in your eyes. You know what I mean? As you're reading the comic book, I think that's coming. But you're right. Just as it is right now for digital, it's not really fun to read for me. And I think there's a big part of it that you really connected with the newsprint, the smell of newsprint, and the collecting it and having it at a price point where you can share it with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Comics for everybody, whether or not you're a collector or you're not, it doesn't really have much to do with that. It's more just the intrinsic nature of I've purchased something, I want to own the physical thing of it. So when and people compare it all the time, they go, well, what about like Netflix, or what about with downloading a song? Well, the end result's the same. If I watch a film on Netflix, or if I watch it from a DVD or a Blu-ray or whatever, it's the same thing. I'm enjoying the entertainment by watching it. If I'm listening to a song, whether it's a CD or it's an MP3, I'm listening to the song. But with a comic, it's everything involved. You're holding it, you're looking at it, you can smell the comic. That's a big important thing for a lot of people. What we found out too.
It is for me.
It's a whole tactile experience.
It reminds me of being young with my dad and getting a Spider-Man comic when I was sick, and things like that. And then for my kids to be able to pass it on to them. And I know it's a lot of parents like that. There's a whole group of people that were very upset with the big two that felt like, geez, this is what you're doing to us for our kids.
Right.
You know, we counted on you to care for the mythology of these characters we loved, and you let us down. You know, so a lot of us are looking for other places, and I keep referring everybody to Alterna, all parents to Alterna. You know, for that. So kudos,
Thank
bro.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's definitely a place. There's definitely a place for digital comics, and if people appreciate them more than the print, that's perfectly fine. It's just more the conversation of digital taking over print. I think that's blown up a bit, and it really, really is, just even from this side of the whole thing. But you know, if you love digital comics, if that's the way that you prefer to read them, if that's, you know, the best method for you to read them, that's perfectly fine. And that's why we offer that option too. It's just more the people that want to say, well, it's going to take over, it's going to eliminate print. Especially too, they'll look at things like on the newsstand, newspapers have a hard time, magazines have a hard time. Well, the biggest part about why those forms of, you know, periodicals and newspapers have such a hard time, newspapers are pretty much, as soon as they get printed, the news is old, especially in this day and age. And then magazines, a lot of the time, you'll find that these magazines are basically giving away their content online for free, more or less.
Right.
So they kind of create their printed product to be almost meaningless and obsolete as soon as it's out there.
Mhm.
So there's this weird kind of immediacy because of the whole nature of those two forms of media, that is killing them off. And it's not necessarily going to do the same thing for comics. Comics can have a very long, if not almost infinite, shelf life in some cases, whereas obviously if it's a news media, it's pretty much gone as soon as it occurs.
You know, I have a question to you about that, nerd.
Punisher #2. You know, I bought it off the. I bought it myself. You know, it has a long shelf life. Then it means something to you.
I have. Paige just said my little nephew, at least right now, prefers the physical comics to digital. But how about you, nerd? You're a different generation. Do you prefer digital or physical?
Really, I come from a generation that was slowly getting into digital, so it's 50-50 with me, but I really like having a physical copy. Physical just feels nicer and it's real, and let's face it, and a lot of us in today's age anyway know that sometimes these companies are going to go under, and if they go under, so does your comic digitally. Like when they shut down a video game, well, you're not getting your money back. If Steam goes under, we lose all those games.
Yeah, people don't really understand that part of it either, which kind of upsets me too. You're not downloading a physical file in terms of, you know, the digital file. Now you can own it physically in a way that you still have that retaining ownership of it kind of a thing. You're basically purchasing a license to be able to read this through an app, through a site, however it is that they communicate that in that contract. So if, like, let's say Comixology gets shut down or it goes down, you don't have access anymore to those books. So that kind of thing, that upsets me, that's how that is going about things.
They also cost the same as a physical, which I have found ridiculous, like especially with like Marvel and DC, who are like, oh, the reason that we upped up the price is that because we, you know, a physical, we made our physicals so much different. And it's like, well, the digital's the same amount. Are you going to answer that? And then they just like kind of walk away. So it's like, I know what you're doing.
Well, to be fair, in a business perspective, if they can't undercut themselves, if they sold the digital significantly cheaper, they'd be cutting their own sales on the physical. So I can understand that.
At the same time, they don't pay the creators for digitals.
Right, and that's the whole thing too. I'm not a big fan that way, especially with video games and stuff. As I said, I'm taking a little Frugal to the game store as well, and I'm the same way with comics as I am games. I prefer physical over digital because, like we said, if they shut down the site or whatever, you lose all access. And same with games. If Steam, people tell me all the time, why don't you go on Steam and get Steam? And it's like, yeah, but if Steam ever goes down, or decides they're not going to support that service anymore, you're done.
Yeah.
So in comics, same way.
So I could give you the cheap dollar games. I mean, they're $1, so if I lose them, in a bajillion.
Yeah, but I'm frugal. That means a lot to me.
Fine. Well, I'm gonna go buy you again. We're just gonna go and get you your very own Steam account, and if people want it, just tell people your account name, so then they can just gift you 10 cents games, and then play them.
We do have a Steam account. A little Frugal had me make him once because he's got bending ink machine on that. So there goes that. So checking again, a quick peek at the Alterna Comics. There, your Indiegogo. It doesn't have a whole lot longer. You're getting there, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of great benefits, a lot of growth. This could happen. Will this allow you to up the amount of comic books that you're going to be publishing too? Does this have any impact on that?
Not specifically in terms of the titles we publish, but in terms of the size of the print run. Yeah, definitely.
And will that give you better economies of scale for pricing to help you out too as well then?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also going to allow us to always keep things in stock as opposed to, we run out of titles, which is what's happening right now. And then we got to go back to print and then the wait time involved and all of that. We don't want readers to be sitting maybe 2 or 3 months or possibly even longer between issues, or, if they get into a series and they discover, issue 1, but 2 or 3 are sold out. We don't want people to look at that and go, oh, well, these are really difficult to come by because my comic shop is sold out, or I don't want to pay like 7 times the amount on eBay or something like that because this issue sold out. So we don't want to have people doing that. And we'd much rather have these bigger print runs right off the bat and be sitting on maybe 200 or 300 more than we necessarily would need, because also the creators sell these books all the time too. It shows. So it's nothing like a risk or anything like that of sitting on inventory. It's just more the risk of losing the sales is definitely a very real.
Oh yeah,
real
thing. How many do you want to print at a time? Like, if ideally, how many is your target to go to your printing network and say, hey, if you had unlimited space, what would that be?
Probably only about, let's say, the average issue is about like a 3,000 or 4,000 print run. So maybe another 1,000 or 2,000, depending.
I'm doing 5 each, and I'm trying to make no more than 3 covers to make them rare. You know what I mean? And I'm discontinuing them. Like the Ravage. This main cover. As soon as it's out, as soon as I hit my limit, I'm never going to produce it again. So I'm only going to do 5,000. That's what feels like a good number to me, because I get a good price point on that.
Yeah, around 5,000 usually seems to be a pretty good number, especially for number 1s and things like that. And if you can always gauge eventually as you go on if you need to increase or not.
Right.
But we'd rather have copies that we're sitting on a couple hundred for a year, and they're there and we know they're there, because you can always clear them out if you need to. Then go, well, we really need copies in right now, and because that's what we did the retailer buyback thing for too. I expected more activity on that front, and so we didn't have to necessarily go back to print so often. But the thing is, a lot of these titles, they sell out relatively fast at stores, so stores didn't have a whole lot to give up. We only had maybe 2 out of the 14 or 15 stores that I deal with. 2 of them approached me first, and the quantities weren't even that big. So it's something where I found myself begging stores for books that we were selling out of. And I said, look, we'll just do a trade in. And, if you're sitting on this for like 6 or 7 months, even if it's just 2 copies of an issue, I'll take it off your hands and we can give you something in return. And they were kind enough to help us out with that, but I don't want to keep on doing that. It's definitely a stressful, and time consuming experience. So I'd rather have those, initial print runs be higher and able to help out retailers when they need it, as opposed to basically begging them to give up their stock that they're not necessarily wanting to part with.
Right.
And as you were saying about the storage space too, it allows you to hold those issues, because from retail and experience things too, it's the energy. When people lose energy to buy something, they're probably not going to buy it. So if they go to the store and it's not there, they go again and it's not there, or if they have to order it and wait 2 months, the energy is probably gone, and it'll be moving on to the next thing. So you want to make sure you have the ability to give them that product when they want it, so that they'll still get it.
Yeah, and bless them, the Alterna faithful have been great about being very persistent with, okay, when this is back in stock, let me know, and then I'll get it. But I don't expect people to keep doing that, and I don't like the fact that people are forced to do that. I want them to be able to get to the stuff they want when they want it, and this is going to be able to have us do that because we've got, I think, at the end of this year, we're going to have close to maybe 125 different issues and maybe about 30, 32 different titles. So we keep growing in terms of we need to keep certain things in stock. We need to keep certain issues in stock. We need to have stock not just for the Alterna store or for retailers, but also for creators when they do shows and signings. So this is something too that we're going to be able to do because we're definitely outgrowing the space that we're currently in. And that's why, again, I'm so glad that we're not going to be in there for much longer.
Well, if you need any space, man, we got plenty. So we could do long-term storage.
Friendship.
Now, Nerd Wonder, there was a question to you, Nerd Wonder. It was asked by James Hayes. To ask you, are you going to crowdfund your own comic book?
You better.
Yes, there actually is plans on one.
Surprise info, or is that as much as you're going to give right now?
Secret.
You don't have to give anything you don't want right now.
I can't at the moment. I'm sorry.
No, don't be. That's okay. So there you hear it there. Hint, hint, hint. Stuff is coming. Also, too, if you're interested in checking out some of the alternative stuff on that Indiegogo, it's got lots of pictures, the covers of the books that are available and things. Definitely look them up and things like that. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised with some. I know I picked some here and there to read. I got a huge pile. I think next I'm reading Mother Russia's on my pile to read.
Good.
Eden, I loved Eden. That was great too.
Yeah. Did you pick up the rest of the series too? Did you get
I haven't.
That's before that just came out?
I haven't, but that's a goal for this weekend.
Nice.
And if they don't have it at the comic shop, we're gonna mention, hey, why don't you get Alterna Comics there? And if not, we'll order them too. So, nonetheless, we're gonna get them.
Yeah. Have you been reading Feast or Famine at all?
I haven't.
Yeah, you got to check this out too. Let me show you the art, and if you want, you can allow me to share this with the chat too.
Absolutely.
This way.
Let me do that just a second here. I gotta switch it here. Right, it's on you.
All right. So Feast or Famine is a great sci-fi adventure series. This has some fantastic art in it. So if you guys are not familiar with Alterna, if you don't know about newsprint with Alterna, if you ever hear that they can't do some wonderful coloring on newsprint, just take out this series in particular and shove it in their face.
Yeah.
Say, well, what about this?
Right.
Dave Schwartz does a great job. He's a writer, creator, and colorist. Joseph Cooper does a great job as well. He's a penciler of the book. But this series is just super entertaining and well made. There's some fantastic art in here. And again, it's a 3-issue miniseries, $1.50 an issue, so $4.50 for the whole thing. That's less than the cost of most single issues nowadays. Yeah, some great stuff.
How much are you charging for it?
$1.50 an issue.
Man, that's great. That's great. I mean, with my price, maybe because we're new and small and so forth, you know what I mean? But we went the same way with the High Bright newsprint.
Just a second, I'll switch it on to you, Ben.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. But what do you think of that, Pete? You know, I mean, it's just, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the colors, you know, we went the High Bright. I mean, look at that bottom panel.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that's not great. You know, I mean, I'm with you. You know, you don't need to have the $8 books. You know, here's Mitch Breitweiser's The Futurist on newsprint. So, yeah.
I'm perfectly happy
I like
with
how the color absorbs into the newsprint. I think it just looks great.
I do too. You know, I went through and looked at all of it. You know, here's Magus coming soon. You know, and if you guys want this rare copy, there's only 1,000 of these. So this is still on Indiegogo. There's maybe 100 left or so on Indiegogo, and if I don't sell them, I'm keeping them. That'll be for me. So you know, you got a week or so left. I'll go ahead and do that. But I'm with you. I love it. The High Bright newsprint. So we brought our price in with everything right now for retailers at $3.
So
Yeah,
you know,
great.
you look at that.
We
You don't
want to go
print.
down. We want to go down with it.
You guys don't print as big of volumes as like Marvel and DC, so it really makes you scratch your head as why can't they do this and get the price down?
They can.
They're just jerks.
Exactly, they can, and that's the thing.
Peter
But they don't want
proved that out. Peter proved that out. Now, Peter, let me ask you this: what do you feel about the European model about just producing a 120-page graphic novel every 3 months.
Well, that's kind of what we did for our first 10 years. For those that don't know, Alterna has been around, like we said in the beginning of the show, for 13 years. For our first 10 years, we mostly just put out graphic novels. I think we did less than a handful of single issues in that whole time. And that the European market, and especially too in Japan with manga, they're thriving with that format. But in America is a big downturn. And that's what made me go into doing single issues. There's been a big downturn in mainstream graphic novels. If anything, the market's lost about 20% in the past 2 to 3 years. But it's getting flooded. It's getting absolutely flooded right now. And that's part of that is because there was a lot of success around 2015 for graphic novels. And everyone decided to flood towards that space. And especially you'll find a lot of mainstream comics, they write for the trade, you know, these kind of storylines that are not decompressed anymore. They're very they drag them out, but they're dragging them out because they're writing for the trade. But the problem with that is everyone goes, okay, well, they'll put them towards the book market, but the book market doesn't know necessarily what to do with graphic novels for the most part.
Right.
And the space isn't really built for it. It's an interesting different size when it comes to comics, the standard comic size. Ours are 6x9 at this point, so it's more familiar for the book industry.
Right.
But people go, well, what about libraries? You know, they say, let's get all the graphic novels into libraries. Well, libraries have limited budgets. There's only so much room. A lot of the times, libraries, most of their graphic novels are donated.
Right.
True.
So that's not necessarily a spot either that you're going to all of a sudden find massive success in terms of actually getting paid to put your graphic novels in libraries. So the whole market with that's getting a bit flooded, and the book industry's got its own problems right now. And hitching your wagon onto the book industry that's kind of almost struggling worse than the comic industry in some ways isn't really the answer either.
Right.
The answer is to stop avoiding the fact that comics need to be priced at an impulse buy price. You know, they can't be this $5 to $9 an issue nonsense, and realize that it's a sales by volume industry.
Right.
If we need more sales, these comics need to be in more places. You know, and this is something I've been advocating for a while now. And this is when comics were at their height in terms of sales. They were everywhere.
Right.
Really?
And speaking of price points, you can get right now on the Indiegogo, there 100 all age comics for $65.
That's amazing. That's
I love
awesome.
that. But
Yeah.
I think that sometimes they overprice them to ensure that the amount of money comes back the same every year.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're a corporation. They have to roll up to their board at Warner Brothers or Disney. You know, I mean, that's a requirement. They're doing everything they can to hit those numbers to view as success. It doesn't matter the quality. That's not their focus, it seems like.
Yeah. And that's the funny part is you'd figure a publisher or whoever's in charge of the publishing division would go, look, we're going to make billions anyway on the merchandising and the IP of these characters and these properties. Let's create the comics so that they're priced as a loss leader. So we can get, you know, let's say I want to boost Moon Knight. So, you know, if I'm Marvel, I want to boost Moon Knight. So this way I can get a Moon Knight film going and we can increase the popularity of the character. Well, the best way to do that is to make sure that this book is priced affordably and put everywhere. And this goes for any single IP. Like if I had billions of dollars at my disposal to get these comics everywhere, you know, we would pay for the promotional spot at Walmart by the register, and not just have it put wherever Walmart thinks it belongs.
You're right.
You know, and take a little bit of a loss because you're going to ensure now everyone sees these characters and these comics. And that is going to maybe get you a loss for a couple months. And then all of a sudden it's going to turn to massive gains in the long run. So this is something that it's very short-sighted business. It's a play for the short term. It's kind of a comfort zone business too, because they know that they're going to make money in other areas, whereas they're not depending on just the publishing to give them all their money. If they were, they'd be a little more proactive with their risk. They'd be a little bit more interested in how do we grow the publishing aspect, because they'd count on it, but they're not counting on it. And it's very obvious they're not counting on it, but it's to the detriment of the entire comic industry.
Right,
Mhm.
and you know, like Marvel
Hey,
and
hey
DC,
guys,
they have to have those high.
I gotta bounce. But Peter, it's been great being on with you, Captain Nerd Wonder. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you for coming on.
Welcome, yeah. Thanks for joining.
Anytime, we'll do more. Come over to my channel sometime. We'll all hang out. But thank you all.
All right.
Take it easy.
See you later.
Yeah. So I was saying, you know, the Marvel, DC and things, they have to keep those price points high because they want to still maintain the same profit levels. So, you know, and they're going to maintain that over some of them. Some that sell better are going to help help with the profit levels of the ones that aren't. But yeah, they got to pay in all the overhead and all that. So they have to keep those prices high. That's because the sales volume isn't there. The lower the sales volume, the higher those prices are going to keep going. And the sales have not been great for them. So that only shows something else is not going to work. So they're going to once again pass the cost up again on us, most likely. So that should be a scary thought.
Well, and every single time you do that, you know, it's comics. It's not a finite thing. It's not like filling seats in a stadium, you know, and you only have so many seats to fill. So you're going to have certain seats more expensive than other seats and so on. Comics, you can print 10,000, you could print 1 million. You know, it doesn't mean there's just this little amount and everyone has to, you know, fight for it. But it's so weird too sometimes because people will say when I say stuff like this, it means I hate the big two. If anything, I want the big two to be even more successful than they are right now, because what that ends up meaning is that it makes the whole industry look more attractive. It makes the whole industry more successful. It gives more money to the retailers that sell the comics. It gives them more of a security feeling, so they can go, well, I can stock some indies that look good, but maybe, you know, I got to wait a little bit until that catches on to an audience. But in the meanwhile, these mainstream books are doing terrific. And then it also makes people go, hey, I want to open up a comic shop because comics are doing so great. So Marvel and DC doing amazingly, it enables all of that. It enables indies to succeed and thrive too. So I absolutely care that they stick around and that they do better than they're doing right now.
Oh yeah, they're like an anchor store in a comic, you know, in a mall to a comic shop there. I mean, people are going to come because they're getting the books that they know of really well. You know, they're Supermans and Avengers and everything, and then they're going to see your book on the shelf.
Exactly.
You know, they're like, well, maybe I should try that too, especially when they see the price. And that's how you get them in. If they didn't have something to drive them to the store, how are they going to know about the comic character that they don't know exists?
Yeah. So I don't want to see the big two stop making comics or go away and think, okay, well, now is the time for indies to rise up and take them over. Because right now, you know, Marvel and DC could stop publishing comics. They'll still be fine. But there's probably going to kill off about 75% of the comic shops within about 2 or 3 months if both just stopped publishing comics today. And that's not going to do any good for the rest of the industry. It's certainly not going to do good for indies, and it might completely then collapse Diamond because their infrastructure is not set up to go, okay, well, we've given everybody enough time and presence and building up their brand as well that we can just kind of shift gears and start promoting Image heavier. You know, Image and whoever else would be the next big two. The comic market's not set up that way. So you need those two in there because unfortunately the industry has made it that way. But it's also up to the retailers at this point to recognize, yeah, that could be a possibility. There could be a big dramatic shift. So we have to be ready to and diversify our selection and make sure that in our store, maybe we're set up and organized so that people understand, hey, look, there's not just Marvel and DC. There's all these other great publishers out there. And there's all these other genres of books too. You know, at Alterna, we've got sci-fi and horror and action and a little bit of superhero and all kinds of stuff. And the same goes for many indie publishers as well. Maybe setting things up by genre so people can walk in and go, hey, you know, I'm into horror. I wonder what horror books you've got. Because no one's going to go in there and go, I've never heard of Alterna, so I'm looking for Alterna Comics. But they're going to go in there going, I've heard of horror. I like horror. I'm going to look for the horror section. You know,
Yeah,
and that's something too that a lot of stores have been doing.
You were saying, Nerd?
No, I was going, yeah.
Oh. now,
Good tiny Peter.
are you doing anything in particular with the Shriners hospitals for children thing? I noticed you have Positivity in Comics, Shriners hospitals.
Yeah,
for
we
children.
donated a bunch during the course of Alternimus, and I'm going to be donating some more too with the course of this whole thing, because we've got a couple people that want to have us just donate straight to a charity. So we've got about, I think, 2 or 3 international backers that said, hey, look, I want to support, just donate to whatever charity you want to donate to. And then there's 2 other people as well that want to donate to Shriners. So we're going to do that. And then on top of that, too, Alterna eventually will donate some more. I'm always donating to Shriners, local libraries, the troops. I think over the course of the past couple of years, we've donated close to 1,500 comics or something like that to the troops, which was funny because six of those people that got our books from that donation, we found 6 veterans. They got in touch with us and they started ordering direct from us because they fell in love with our comics, which was, I didn't even expect that to happen. I didn't even think that would have at all. So that was really nice, and really nice words from them, and appreciate everything that the troops do for us. Absolutely. I've got friends and family that have served, and some that have given the ultimate sacrifice. So that kind of stuff is very near and dear to me. And we, whatever we can do in terms of that, it's always going to be, to me, small in terms of what they're doing. Very, very small, but it's something, and we try to do what we can.
Now, we've talked about donating to libraries and things. Have you ever heard of the service hoopladigital.com?
Yeah, we've got Alterna books on Hoopla, actually.
Oh, do you?
Yep.
I didn't notice that. Doggone.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. So you can even check that out. So if you're not familiar with some and you want to just check them out that way too, before you buy them, if you have a library card, you should be able to go to hoopladigital.com, sign in there. It's already paid for through your public library, that service. And so you could check out check out Alterna Comics through there too. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Well, this sounds really cool.
Hoopla is pretty cool. Hoopla enables, for those that don't know, it's digital, and it enables you to get, at least the last time that I checked, you could get 10 downloads. You could take out 10 things a month. And
it actually depends on it depends on your library branch. Different branches have different deals set up with the amounts they can take.
Yeah, because we've got a bunch of graphic novels on there. And yeah, it's an interesting site. The last I checked, there was DC and Image were on there. And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's unique, and it's free. It's through your local library basically, and it's through your app on your mobile device. Or I know they also have an app on Roku now too for the movies they have on there.
So yeah, definitely a way to check it out if you're not sure. Just to check it out that way. If you like it, then you can turn around and buy it and add it to your collection.
That's so cool. Thank you for learning me about this.
They don't call me Frugal for nothing.
You're so smart, Frugs.
You learn a way to save a penny when you can. That way you can. I tell people, frugal doesn't mean you're cheap. It means you watch your money so you can buy more. So
exactly. And for those too that are interested in saving some money on digital books, if you sign up for our newsletter on alternacomics.com, you get 5 digital books for free. They're PDFs, they're full issues, and you get those for free. You can download them right away. And
then you'll probably end up being like me, a collector, and you'll have a room full of comic books before you know it.
Well, that's our evil plan. So
I got 3 long boxes.
3? Well, you're starting.
Yeah,
that's a baby collection. We're at about 10,000 comics. So
I've got thousands upon thousands, but most of them are the same issue because they've got Alterna in the corner.
That's all right. They're worth more that way.
Yeah, I had I think 6 or 7 long boxes, and then I moved like 10 years ago, and I sold most of them. I think I just have about 1.5 at this point of just the near and dear issues to me. But yeah, I had a whole ton. I had almost the entire Wizard magazine collection too. I sold that off.
Oh wow. I remember getting those. Those were always so expensive though.
Yeah, but man, I've read them like crazy when I was a kid. And then as soon as I had a job and I had money, I was like right to eBay, and I'm buying all the Wizard stuff, and I'm buying all the trading card sets, and I'm all that stuff. That was kind of the first thing of just filling in those little missing pieces of my childhood.
That was the Shonen Jump. I collected every single issue. And then my family had to move while I was in college, so they dumped them.
Oh.
I had a probably 4 years worth of the Shonen Jumps.
Wow.
They donated it to like the Salvation Army, so it's not that bad.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, some kid gotta read them all. They were supposed to deliver them to a library, but the library was closed at the time, so they just dropped it off.
Well, you never realize how little you need until you have to move.
Right? Yeah. I had a bunch of action figures too. I had almost all of remember the Toy Biz line of the Marvel superheroes toys from like the early 90s. I had like the gray card. I had almost that whole line. I sold those all. And they were unopened too. And I had maybe half of the X-Men Toy Biz line as well from the 90s, sold those off. Yeah, a ton of stuff, sold them off. And I'm like, well, you got to move and you got to do all this stuff and you need some money and you got to pay rent and you got to run a business and a lot of adult things.
Life gets in the way, doggone it.
Yeah, it really does.
Time. It's always there. somewhere.
Pages asked, I'm not sure I 100% understand this question, Pages, so if I butcher this, let me know. He says, the retailer bundles on the Indiegogo look great. How aware do retailers seem of the Indiegogo in general?
Yeah, retailers, boy, it's tough with retailers when it comes to supporting stuff like this. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that on many crowdfunders in the past, those projects didn't always get filled. And I don't mean Alterna ones. Alterna ones always get filled. But on other people's, that's what I've heard. For some people, it's tough to trust crowdfunding for them. They just kind of don't want to do it anymore because of that. The stuff that, as far as they're being aware of it, I know that the ones on our mailing lists are aware of it. But it's really, really difficult. Like, for instance, there's probably about, I'd say 1,200 stores that are on our mailing list, but only about 60 order direct from us, even though they would save money and earn more money by ordering direct from us. The rest of them kind of just want to order through Diamond. So it's tough when it comes to telling someone, oh, well, you should run your business like this, which is basically what you're saying when you're saying that. Many people, they don't want to hear that, for one reason or the other. So it's not necessarily something I'm holding against anybody, but they're aware if they want to get something, they're definitely aware. And it's all a matter of them finding the time for it, or if they think that they've got the budget for it, because it's an unexpected expense. And again, it goes back to the fact that, well, we hear stores aren't necessarily closing because comics aren't doing well. They're closing because, well, rent is increasing and overhead is increasing and wages are increasing. Well, the way that you pay for all those things is if the comics sell better, if your product sells better, so yeah, it does go back to the fact that the comics aren't selling as well as they should. Because even if, comics should be killing it right now. We're not in a time where comics are obscure and characters and no one knows about them. Yeah. We're in a time where I'm pretty sure wrapping paper of a character is selling better than a comic book.
Yeah. We're at a high point. Nobody's buying the comic books. That should tell you there's something wrong.
Yeah. Well, for instance, right? Today was Jose Luis Garcia Lopez's birthday. And he's probably either my top most favorite artist of all time or my second. And for those that don't know who he is, all you have to do is look at pretty much 95% of the DC Comics related merchandise. It's going to be pretty much his art to this day. Everyone at DC understands their merchandise needs to have that iconic look of his art, of those characters. And for those that don't know, here, this is Jose Luis Garcia Lopez's art. You see over there those three big puzzles. You see over yonder those puzzles up top. He did the superpowers line, basically, is what that was modeled after. So merchandise wise, they understand that that's what sells. That's what people are going to be into. That's what people are going to connect with. That's what's going to, basically make everybody go, oh, DC Comics, I got to get that. It's classic and iconic. But then you look at the comics and they don't look that way. They look very far from that.
They're weird.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing. I always laugh at. You look at it, and you see the beach towels and balls with all the, and T-shirts. They're all, not all, but the majority are your classic versions of the
Yeah.
characters. That's what sells.
And then you
I
go to the
understand
comics,
news-
and then it's turned askew. And the thing is,
Yeah.
I understand from an artistic point of view, you want to have a different representation or a different story or a different kind of characterization. That's what's great about miniseries and graphic novels and Elseworlds and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to an ongoing line, it should stay the course of classic and iconic, because that's the thing that's going to be the thing that sells and is mainstream. The push away from that has kind of hurt comics in general.
Well, I know we've been running pretty long. I didn't want to keep you too terribly long. Did you have anything you wanted to share? Anything that I missed that you wanted to make sure we told people today?
Just, support the comics you love, whether they're Alterna or someone else. Support the comic shops. You can go and visit alternacomics.com/retailers to find a comic shop near you that carries Alterna. You can also order direct from us if you don't have a comic shop, in that sad case. You can go to orderalterna.com and order direct from us. And absolutely, check out the Indiegogo. I think Frugal's got the link in the description. And back that if you want to see us thrive and not only survive but thrive for the years to come, and put us in a better position to not only succeed and stay around and grow, but also to eventually start helping out other indies and other comics and get them into the hands of other people too. It's something that's very important. And most campaigns like this, you support one book, but this is a campaign that's supporting an entire company with dozens of books and hundreds of creators involved, and then eventually the future implications of supporting potentially an indie distribution system, which is something that we are desperately in need of in comics.
Yep. So I thank you for being here, and I absolutely, a lot of people say, we want all their alternatives and stuff. Well, here we are. We have tons of alternatives stuck in my head there. If maybe you don't have a lot, there's the $9 great bundle for kids. Why not? Right there. You get one for just some kids if you want to. 10 number one issue digital comics for $10. The all ages 25 for $20. There's another option, but it was $60. There was a $35 option. So there's a lot of different options there based on whatever you feel you want to support or you have available in funds, so you don't bankrupt yourself. You're helping a great company, with Peter here, obviously a great guy. He's supporting a lot of other creators and potential future creators too. So hats off to you. You've done a lot here. Also too, he's no longer here right now, but Ben with Cautionary Comics, he started up. He's trying a lot of the similar kind of thing there to support a lot of other alternatives. Just a lot of great things are coming. So supporting these people all together is just absolutely wonderful. And Nerd Wonder's working on something in secret that she's not saying too much of. So we might be supporting her next. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's coming out good. Good job.
I try. I got a little tongue tied there. Alterna got stuck in my head, which is not a bad thing.
You're doing fine. See, everybody loves you, Frugs.
And we love you too.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Anything else, or are we all good?
I drew this picture.
Oh, I'll put it on your
looks
picture
great.
here so we can see
Looks
it
great.
here. Just a second here. Let's present that to everybody. I almost ejected you on accident there. Oh, look at that. That's really cool.
Do you have like a web comic or anything like that, or an Instagram where you put up stuff?
I'm hoping to start up one soon. So yeah, just do a little web comic about this stuff, I guess. Make it super cute and fluffy.
She's got some stuff coming up that's, I think, going to be keeping her pretty busy.
That's true.
So, all right. Well, I guess we will sign off then. Everyone, Nerd, you got anything else you want to share too? Or?
I love you all.
Aw, she's always so nice. That's Nerd right there. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in. If you don't mind, hit that like button. Tell some people about this. Let's help support this Indiegogo. I really want to see Peter and Alterna Comics continue to grow. I mean, he's nothing but the constant professional online and treating everybody with kindness and respect. And I think it's great to support those people that do that, because that's what we say we want. So the only way to really show that is by supporting them. And let's help continue to get these new options. We're going to get some great books, and I think everyone wins that way.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, and we're $170 away too from the first stretch goal, so I'm really excited about reaching that because we're absolutely going to do that. And 7 days left to reach that $8,000 mark, and that's a lot of time. So thank you guys for supporting. So if you're in the chat and you have supported, thank you a lot.
I'm definitely gonna get that kid one because I want the actual Roger.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Until next time, keep it frugal.